Melissa is a senior studying accountancy, currently on campus. She serves as the vice president of membership at UPN, as well as being a B101 section leader. Next year, she'll be working for Teach for America in the Bay Area of California. And Melissa's free time, she likes to read, cook, and run. So here's Melissa.
Woo! Yeah.
Thanks, Jake. All right, so to start out, how many of you have seen the movie The Pursuit of Happiness? Woo! Yeah, most of us, right? So, unfortunately, I'm not going to be talking about that movie today. I'm just borrowing the title, and that's where the overlap ends. But I am talking today about happiness and the pursuit thereof. And this is a topic that, for me personally, I'm pretty passionate about. It's something that I hold pretty near and dear to my heart. So happiness obviously is something that has been studied by psychologists for decades and has pretty much puzzled humanity since the beginning of time. And through my own personal research, whether that be late night conversations with family and friends, or books that I've read, or TED Talks that I've stayed up way past my bedtime to be watching, this is something I've thought a decent amount about. And today I wanted to share with you guys a few thoughts that I had that can be articulated in three main points. The first point I want to make is happiness versus pleasure and the disparity between the two. The second point is the sine curve of happiness. And the third point I want to make is steps to find your own. So to start out, I want to talk a little bit about something I like to call the happiness versus pleasure conundrum. So happiness and pleasure are used pretty interchangeably in our society today, and I hear people saying a lot of times that something will make them happy, like a new iPhone or getting a record amount of likes on an Instagram post. I'm guilty of this too. I think most of us probably are. However, as you can see, pleasure and happiness have actually pretty different chemical reactions in our brain. Pleasure is triggered by a chemical called dopamine, which is associated with motivation and reward. And dopamine tends to be a lot shorter and more momentary, more fleeting. Happiness, on the other hand, is triggered by serotonin, which is associated with contentment and overall satisfaction. Serotonin tends to last a lot longer and can last weeks, sometimes even months. So although there's an obvious chemical difference between these two, I challenge you now to take the next step and think of those two things differently in your own head. To me, happiness comes from within. It's not a measure of something external, a tangible object that you might be working towards getting. And of course, we all have material things that we're working towards and wishing for, and that's normal, that's healthy. But happiness is a state of mind that's attainable within each of us right now. So next, I want to talk a little bit about something I call the sine curve of happiness. So for those of you over there who might not be able to see it and maybe haven't taken a math class in a while, sine curves are the ones that go like that, right? Just in case anyone forgot. And basically this idea says that there are plenty of external factors that change our levels of happiness throughout time, whether that's getting a good job or failing a test or someone in your family getting sick, things like that. You're going to experience different fluctuations. However, you're always going to be regressing back to a base level of happiness. There was a study done a few decades ago where participants were asked to rate their level of happiness on day 1 and then day 365, 1 year later. And these participants had one of two things happen to them before being selected to be in the survey. They either won the lottery or were diagnosed with a serious illness. So those participants who won the lottery on day 1 and day 365 actually ended up averaging just about that same level of happiness as they did on day 1. Now, some of you can probably guess where I'm going with this, but similarly, the people who were diagnosed with a serious illness also were just about at that same level of happiness 1 year later. Now, it's safe to assume that whoever won the lottery probably experienced the up part of that curve, and whoever was diagnosed with the illness probably experienced the down part. But the important thing to note here is that whatever external factor they might have gone through, they regressed back to that base level. Now, one clarification I want to make is that everyone's base level can be different. When asked how happy you are, some people might say, oh, I'm a 9 out of 10, I'm really happy all the time. Others might say, I'm a 4 out of 10. Sometimes I'm feeling myself, sometimes I'm not. But the important thing here is that you each have the power to change your own base level of happiness. That's a really important idea. I'm going to say it again. You all have the power to change your base level of happiness. And I want to share a few tips with you on how I've done this and how you can do the same. Oops, wrong way. So for me personally, I don't know what I want to do long-term, big picture with my life. But I do know that whatever I do, I want it to give me a sense of purpose and bring me a sense of accomplishment. For that reason, I chose to accept a full-time offer with Teach for America after college. And while this job might not pay me as much and might challenge me more at times, I know that this is something that will bring me true inner happiness because it's something that I'm so passionate about. And so I challenge each of you to ask yourself that same question. Whatever your endeavors might be in life, do something that will bring you happiness. Whatever you're investing your time into, ask yourself, is this something that's going to bring me simple pleasure that might end quickly, or is it something that's going to bring me that true inner happiness? The second way that I like to kind of practice this is to just make an effort to appreciate each day as its own and see the best in every day. And this idea actually comes from a book by the Dalai Lama that I recently read. He's a cute old man in the corner up there. You can't see him. And he talks about the importance of appreciating each day for what it is. And so one way I like to do this is I like to try to eat one meal alone every day, whether that's breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And I like to put my phone away, don't have the TV on, I'm not listening to music, and I like to just sit and eat and think. And during that time, I think of 3 things that day that I'm thankful for, or excited about, or happy about. And they're not usually big things, they're usually very insignificant. Like, I saw a really pretty tree that was a nice shade of red on my walk to class, or I have ice cream in my freezer for dessert. Like, these are the things I think about. But those are the things that, are the smallest parts of my days, the most insignificant parts, but the things that allow me to appreciate the good parts of life, the simple things. And also I encourage you, if this is something that piques your interest at all, these are a couple of my own personal favorite books that I've read and a TED Talk I've listened to by Daniel Kahneman. The Meaning of Happiness is the book by the Dalai Lama right there. So definitely if this is something that you want to put more thought into, I encourage you to start there since those are some personal favorites of mine. And one thing I want to leave you with, if you take one thing away from this TED Talk, not TED Talk, senior talk, I want it to be this. Happiness is a state of mind. It doesn't have to be the elusive pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. It's attainable within all of us right here, right now. For me, happiness comes from laughing at a story that my friend is telling, or eating at Chipotle for lunch, or reading my favorite book, cozied up under a blanket. Happiness is not about the destination. It is a state of mind, and it starts with you. Thank you.